You Season 4 Ending Explained Part 1. The fourth season of You has come to an end, and it was a wild ride. The finale left fans with many questions, so let's dive into the ending and try to unravel what just happened. At the end of You Season 4 Part 1, Joe and his new friends turned foes are on a weekend away at Hampstead, Lady Phoebe's country estate. Except for the recently deceased and Rhys Montrose, who we can assume is busy preparing his campaign for mayor of London. But it's far from a relaxing vacation when Kate discovers Gemma's dead body in her room. Joe assists her in disposing of the corpse in the manor house's game larder. Once they are back in Kate's room, she realizes she left her name engraved bracelet in the larder with Gemma's dismembered body. So, Joe goes to get it for her. In front of the rest of the group, Roald stops him on his way and kidnaps him at gunpoint, claiming that Joe is the assassin who eats the rich. Naturally, Joe becomes suspicious of Roald after learning that the latter is smitten with Kate and has been secretly photographing her in intimate settings. Relations between the two haven't improved since Roald recently forced Joe out of a first-floor window. After their altercations with the group, Roald lets Joe into the woods and start to hunt him like a game animal. Rhys appears out of nowhere. Before shooting Joe with a gun, he addresses him by his real name. That's correct. Rhys is the you who has been texting Joe secretly and is thus Eat the Rich murderer. Roald is unconscious when Joe awakens in the home's basement, chained to him. After Joe kills Roald, Rhys wants to work with Joe to blame Roald for the murders. When Joe refuses, Rhys starts a fire in the cellar. They can revisit this conversation in London. He says if Joe manages to flee, Joe frees himself and Roald from the chains, and Kate assists him in exiting the basement before it is completely consumed by fire. Back in London, Joe swears to get even with Rhys, and Rhys announces his candidature for mayor of London on television. Who dies in You Season 4 Part 1? Malcolm, Joe's neighbor and fellow Darcy College professor, is the first victim of the Eat the Rich killer at the end of episode 1. After a wild night at Sundry House, Joe awakens to find Malcolm impaled with a knife on his kitchen table and no memory of how he got there. Talk about anxiety. Oh, and Malcolm's corpse is missing a finger. Artist with arrogance in episode 2, Simon is the next member of the group to perish. His body is discovered backstage at his art show after he is confronted by a young artist whom he exploited. One of Simon's ears have been removed from his corpse, which appears to be a pattern for our serial killer. In episode 4, Gemma is the final victim of the Eat the Rich killer. Kate discovers her body on the floor of her room after the murder mystery party. She, like Malcolm and Simon before her, has been stabbed. Who murdered Malcolm? Who is Joe's stalker? In episode 5, we learn that Joe's stalker, the sender of the cryptic anonymous texts, and the Eat the Rich killer is none other than rags to riches Mayor of London candidate Rhys Montrose. At the end of Part 1, he reveals himself to Joe and expresses a desire for the two to work together to frame Roald for the murders of Malcolm, Simon, and Gemma. What happened to Marianne? Marianne begins a new life as an artist in Paris after fleeing Madre Linda with her young daughter Juliet at the end of Season 3. Season 3 concluded with Joe following her to Paris, but he is unable to locate her, only a stall selling her artwork. Joe follows the stall owner's advice that he can find Marianne in London, where she'll be selling her wares at an art fair. Joe eventually lets her go after chasing her through the streets and into an abandoned building and scaring her to death. Later, a man hired to kill him by Love, Quinn's father, confronts him. Do you remember Love? Joe's now deceased wife, whose demise he staged alongside his own as an elaborate murder-suicide back in Madre Linda after she too attempted to kill him. However, the man is not interested in killing Joe. Instead, he gives him a new name, Jonathan Moore, and instructs him to leave. The catch is that Joe must murder Marianne because she is aware that he is actually still alive. Though Joe doesn't kill Marianne, it appears as though he has truly changed. Instead, he pursues her to St. Pancras stations where she is about to board a train to return to Paris, and steals her necklace covertly, ostensibly to present to Mr. Queenscoon as evidence that he really did murder her. We believe Marianne took the train back to Paris and resumed her quiet existence with Juliet. When will Season 4 Part 2 on Netflix be available? Episode 1 through 5 of You Season 4 Part 1 are currently streaming on Netflix, but episodes 6 through 10 won't be available until March 9. This indicates that Part 1 and Part 2 must be separated by a full month. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts of the ending of You Season 4 and what you'd like to see in the future. We'll be back with more exciting content, so stay tuned.